Unconscious biases are biases that occur automatically and unintentionally, affecting our judgments and decisions without our conscious awareness. There are numerous types of unconscious bias that have been identified by researchers. Here's a list of 50 common types of unconscious bias. 1. Confirmation bias. 2. Halo effect. 3. Horns effect. 4. Implicit association bias. 5. Anchoring bias. 6. Availability heuristic. 7. Fundamental attribution error. 8. Stereotyping. 9. In-group bias. 10. Out-group homogeneity bias. 11. Attribution bias. 12. Similarity bias. 13. Contrast effect. 14. Overconfidence bias. 15. Status quo bias. 16. Beauty bias. 17. Conformity bias. 18. Primacy effect. 19. Recency effect. 20. Affinity bias. 21. Ageism. 22. Gender bias. 23. Racial bias. 24. Ethnic bias. 25. Weight bias. 26. Disability bias. 27. Maternal bias. 28. Paternal bias. 29. Religious bias. 30. Socioeconomic bias. 31. Language bias. 32. Accent bias. 33. Educational bias. 34. Height bias. 35. Thin slicing bias. 36. Body language bias. 37. Confirmation bias. 38. Authority bias. 39. Familiarity bias. 40. Negativity bias. 41. Optimism bias. 42. Pessimism bias. 43. Bandwagon effect. 44. False consensus effect. 45. Self-serving bias. 46. Over-attribution bias. 47. Actor-observer bias. 48. Placebo bias. 49. Priming bias. 50. Just world bias. It's important to note that this is not an exhaustive list, and there are many other types of unconscious biases that exist. Each bias can have different implications and effects on our perceptions and behaviors.